My name is Rachel Slowey, and this is my speech on Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. I have a dream. Everyone knows who has spoken those famous words. Dr. Martin Luther King delivered this speech on August 28, 1963, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, to what CNN had projected was over 250,000 viewers. The context of his speech was to persuade unwilling whites to accept civil rights equal to men and women of all races and ages. His speech took place about a decade after his initial major civil rights move of the Montgomery Bus Boycotting Act. By 1963, Dr. King had already developed a significant number of followers all across America of both black and white race. His strategy for convincing the white community to accept blacks as equals was to use nonviolence to portray their reasoning behind it. Alexis Shaw of ABC News marks Dr. King's use of repetition, his multiple references to many historical documents and song, his ability to have memorized his speech, and his innate ability to pull at not only the head but also the heart as reasons why his speech was so powerful, successful, and cemented its place in history. The first technique Martin Luther King Jr. used during his I Have a Dream speech was to conduct it in front of the Lincoln Memorial while making several references to the Constitution, President Lincoln, and his Emancipation Proclamation. He compared the Negro's current civil rights situation to that of the slaves Lincoln had spoke about 100 years before. He even opened his speech mimicking President Lincoln's opening line of 7 years ago. Throughout the speech, Dr. King is continuously using analogies to evoke the feelings of his audience. He compares justice as a book of opportunity that has written the Negroes in insufficient check, also standing on the quicksands of injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Dr. King employed these techniques in order to have as an effective speech as President Lincoln and to show the correlation between their current civil rights situation and that of the slaves. Dr. King's techniques of making multiple references to children and the continuous effect segregation will have on them and their development. He had assumed the majority of his audience were parents, grandparents, or those who would eventually be having children. His audience was a mix of both black and whites who had projected could take these and all of his statements personally and apply them to their own lives. The impact of this speech was monumental and is important to our nation's history because it brought national light to the issue in Washington and solidified Dr. King as the civil rights leader. Dr. King's techniques I would consider using in my speeches are his use of analogies and making the speech personally relatable to those in his audience. I particularly enjoyed the way Dr. King concluded his speech by reverting the speech back to his original slave reference by declaring that one day, upon gaining civil rights, the Negroes would be able to sing out the Negro spiritual of free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.